let's move on now to legislation for action.
No, capital.
Okay, I'm sorry, I CB, capital. Yeah. I got this up. That's all right, I've been up for a long
That's,
time.
I know, yeah, that's the big tonight.
FY
26.
26 capital book, plan book.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
the book's a book. I just, as a quick background, I met with one of you recently. When I got here 11 years ago or 10 years ago, a lot of this was done on back of napkins and pieces of scratch paper. And this is the first year we've actually had a capital plan book. This has been a goal of mine for many, many years, and I thank Evan and Kerry and Linda and the whole finance team and all the departments for putting this together. It's not perfect. It's not exactly where we want to be, but I think for Councilor DeLorco especially, who's been here for the whole time I have, we've seen a huge, better organization than just a packet of incomprehensible spreadsheets, which I know maybe even Councilor Cormier-Ledger got his first year.
Yeah.
They were disorganized and they were not very well done, and some people had a 5-year plan, some didn't. But we do finally have a real 6-year plan in here for everywhere, I believe. Next year, to Councilor Blank's goal, the last meeting, we are going to try to take that next step and get to a 10-year capital plan for all of our departments. The good news is everything will be organized, it'll be much more clear, hopefully allow for better strategy. The bad news, forewarning, is it's going to be way more money than you can afford, and so most of it you'll have to say no to, but at least you'll have a really formal look. If you look at towns like Andover and even Needham and many others, by the way, they have full-time staff members that deal with just this. Okay, like they have an entire team in Arlington of 2 full-time people that do nothing but capital analytics. I have 1/5 of one person, Evan, who does some of this in his time, and a lot of the departments out here actually fill in a lot of these sheets. So, you know, the overview really quickly is the resolutions that are before you tonight are obviously below. One is the general capital plan that's on the list, which I believe was about 1.81 million. Mostly, if not all, tier 1 priorities of things that were broken or public safety gear and things that needed immediate replacement. And then 2, we had recommended the OPEB deposit because for those of you like Councilor Juku and Councilor Cormier-Ledger and Councilor DeLorco, and many of you who have watched a lot of meetings, you know our OPEB actuarial has stalled, and we've cut almost $1 million in OPEB contributions in our operating budget, and I think almost 2 years we have not been able to make that deposit from free cash. So our policy is in tough shape. However, given where all these numbers came out on the OPEB policy, you don't have to do it. You can approve it tonight if you'd like. But in the memo, I recommended that maybe tabling that until the June 10th meeting would be advantageous to see where exactly all the budget numbers, particularly with healthcare, show up. I want to be clear that this is the Finance Committee's recommendation. They did recommend this on an 8-to-1 vote. I think if any of you watched it, the one dissenting vote was one of the Finance Committee members who actually wasn't against the fixing the sprinkler system at all, Ryan Lorgna. He just was trying to actually engage, I think, some discussion among the Finance Committee about whether this was too much money, whether we were going to wait, whether we should do it now, wait for later. And obviously the fire chief stood up at that meeting and said, well, the way you close the senior center is not repair the sprinkler system, because if the sprinkler system did have a problem, then the senior center would have to get shut down, and the fire chief, I'm sure, is happy to talk about that later. Lastly, I'll say that even despite the Financial Committee recommendation, the council has full authority to spend all of this free cash, none of it, portion it off. You can add things to this list. You can make amendments and take things off this list. The Finance Committee recommendation is just that. It's just a recommendation. That's in the town charter. They have no authority to say, you can't go higher or lower. So if folks want to take some of this stuff off and make amendments to this resolution, you can. or if you want to add things from other tiers, you can. You can also add things to the list that aren't even on capital program. So you can go ahead and spend the money however the council desires. You're the legislative body and you're in control of that. So this is our recommendation, the Finance Committee's recommendation, and obviously the staff are all here tonight to answer any questions that you might have on any of the projects in the Capitol or any of the fleet or any of the other facilities questions that you may have. Thank you.
Okay,
Go into that before we talk about
yeah, can we go into the source of free cash?
Department returns.
Jamie, if you could just
Oh, sure.
detail
Give us a-
2 and 3 before we have the big.
Sure.
We have the big discussion.
So, as I think a few councilors had mentioned earlier, we were certified for about $4.5 million in free cash, which has been fairly stable for a while. If you notice, years back, we had far less free cash. One of the, about half of that, $2 million of that is your income tax returns. It's really what departments turn back, and there's an itemized list in there. And you can see it's a little bit of everything from all the sorts of departments throughout town. I guess for people at home, what warrants a turnback? You know, an example would be, we had a laborer at the DPW who resigned on October 1st. We weren't able to fill that position until February 1st. So there's salary that was not paid out for 3 months or 4 months, and that money is money that is then turned back at the end of the year. All of our free cash is certified by the Commonwealth, so it goes through a review process. It's the Department of Revenue, and then we get a certification. And then the second category are excess revenues. On here, you'll see, as we talked about earlier with Councilor Griffith's questions, you'll see some of the over-unders on where revenue came in, where it was a little lower, but as I explained earlier, you know, these are all reasonable estimates. And our free cash totals over the past at least 5 or 10 years have been fairly stable. I would note that up until a few years ago, when inflation really hit in 2022, we used to actually separate out the hotel tax money and use that for nothing but roads. Obviously, that doesn't happen anymore because the budget needs that money into local receipts. So, so that's really the split in free cash. When people ask, for example, where's all the money go from building, right? The building commissioner, who's on Zoom, brings in a tremendous amount of revenue in building permit monies. Like I said, the solar farm on Maplegate will bring in a significant chunk of change. We'll see that in next year's free cash. We didn't anticipate that as part of this year's free cash because you don't know if the solar farm is going to be, if the land is going to turn over, if there's going to be lawsuits, you don't really know. But now that we know they closed on that on New Year's Eve, and now they're going forward with it, they come into the office. But there's almost, it's very, very hard for us to predict exactly when all that type of stuff is going to happen on a large building fee. But hopefully that's good news for next year. So that's a quick rundown.
All set?
Yep.
So we'll go the same way.
That's right.
Council Malloy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we're talking about the Tier 1 investments. A couple of questions on a few items. I did watch the Finance Committee meeting, so I picked up on some of this. Obviously, at $750,000, I'd like to get a little more background on the sprinkler system at the community center.
Do you, just so while Kevin's coming up, do you know the history?
No.
The 20-year history, 5-year history, 2-year history?
I don't want to know. I've heard bits and pieces of it.
Building was built almost 20-something years ago.
Right.
Was built for some reason completely on the cheap. It's a beautiful building, but as you go in there, they've got those eaves and the nooks and crannies. We've had 2 sprinkler breaks with sub-zero temperatures. We were able to finance the insulation repairs last year. And now I'll let Kevin explain and maybe the fire chief talk about the actual sprinkler system and code that needs to happen. But that's the 1-minute version that we had.
Okay, no, that's part of it.
And we did insulate the entire inside of the building, I think a year ago, Kev, a year and a half ago.
Around this time last year.
around this time last year.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Kevin Harn, Director of Facilities.
Thanks, Kevin. So, as an old facilities guy myself, I try to think back on my career and how many sprinkler replacement jobs we did. I can't think of any. Maybe that's because our leases were 10 years and we moved out of the building, or we didn't remember. Even at 20 years, can you just give us some background on what's the problem, what's the fix, and how does it add up to $750,000?
So, as the breaks had happened, you know, we would get on site and working with the technicians, we would actually look into the pipe, and we found that the existing pipe that's throughout the senior center is worn. As in a dry system with compressed air, it has moisture, and over years there have been breaks, and we're noticing that the interior of the pipe is not, it's not, I guess, sufficient, or what we
Bring it
would.
down, okay.
Exactly. So, and that's your dry system, that's also your wet system. The $750,000 number is a pretty high level. I think it was somewhere between $40 and $45 a square foot. Senior center's a little, like around 18,000 square feet. So that $750,000 number, it could be less.
So even just more basic, if you could just back up. So you're talking individual pipes that terminated sprinkler heads, those are failing?
So where there was a break, so in the dry system where there'd be a low point and then there'd be a drip drum. Typically, you would go over and open up the top valve, then close it, then open the bottom valve, so any water that hit the low point would have been the drum, and then opening the bottom valve, it would drain out. You would continue that sequence until no more water was coming out, and any moisture that would just naturally happen in a dry system would no longer be in the system. In the times where we had the breaks at the senior center, typically those are where the breaks were, wherever there was a drip drum, or above in a low point. And when it would break, and then the team would get on site, and they start cutting back in the pipe, and then they would see ice, they have to keep cutting back further. You cut back until there's no more ice, and then you would just add a new pipe and then connect it into the system. And
So all this pipe is up in the ceiling, right above the ceiling tiles?
correct.
Yeah, and then the raised ceiling in that plenum. And it's cold enough up there to freeze the water?
Not anymore. Not anymore. We insulated the system.
Okay. Warranty, evaluation on what was built, I know it's 20 some odd years ago. Is there any, it doesn't sound like a great installation, if I can say it that way. Do we have any?
From what I've from what I know, I believe I don't think going back and or going through litigation or anything like that with like the original like construction team that happened. I think that's no longer.
I don't know if it's been discussed. It
They
just
may
seems
not
to
even
me.
be around anymore.
Yeah.
People
Okay.
that built it may not.
We did hit the insurance company though.
I was gonna say, we've done, yeah, we're out of insurance claims, challenge flags. Pulled a rabbit out of the hat both times. They did replace the furniture. We pulled every string in the book, but those rabbits are now gone out of the hat. So the insurance did cover
Cover some of
the cost of the previous breaks, but strike three, we're out. It's a great question, but I don't think the warranty or any of those other options are available.
Just my own experience, I don't remember ever having to do anything like that, whatever scale it is or whatever, but it just seems like, obviously it's a lot of money, it's a big facility, there's a lot broken, right? You're replacing every pipe, every sprinkler head.
Oh. Go ahead. I was just wondering if you're gonna go back to a dry system, by the way?
Well, we have some funds allocated to get a designer. I would love for it to just be a wet system, but I think the way that the senior center is designed,
It might not, it might have to.
I don't think that's an option for us.
So dry system meaning there's no water in the pipe until it calls for it when one of the feasible
Correct.
links melts or
Yeah.
something like that.
A lot of the newer, in some of the newer dry systems, they no longer use compressed air, I think it's nitrogen, so no more, just naturally just water or moisture being
And that
introduced.
connects to the water main in the building or the main water lines, and that's where the water comes from to discharge, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame, it just seems like a lot of money for,
A mistake.
a big project or pool work or whatever it is, it's too bad. Okay. My only other question on this list is on the police vehicle replacements. I don't know if the chief's here or whoever could speak to it.
I'm older than him, so I'm sitting down.
So, if I read the narrative right, I think the request was for 3 vehicles, and,
There is a misprint in the book. It's 3 vehicles.
okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought I remembered. So 3 vehicles, is there a misprint in the $284,000?
Want a what?
Is there a misprint
No.
in the $284,000?
No, it's 284. No.
So $95,000 a vehicle?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, one's 103.
So 103, because I thought I heard that at the,
One's 103.7, the other one's 92.2, and the other one's 88.477.
and what are they? What are
2 of them
they?
are specialty vehicles, one being a command vehicle, replacing one that we already have. So in the event that we have a critical incident or we're doing something like the 4th of July, that the vehicle itself is where, there's several computers in it, there's 2 different radio systems,
And
et
it's a
cetera.
Tahoe, right? It's not a regular sedan or?
No, we need a Tahoe because we need a bigger space. We've used them in Fords before because we didn't really have anybody that was doing, there wasn't as much maintenance-wise and having the proper people down at the DPW, but they've gone to several Chevys now, so now it is an option. Whereas before, everything was all Ford, so of course I asked Jay, who's the fleet manager for the entire town, the DPW, you don't have a problem with us having a Chevy, we could use the bigger vehicle for both the command vehicle and the other Tahoe was being used for a K-9 vehicle, with all the equipment that they end up having as well. I mean, every time Dave Gove opens the door to the rear of his current Explorer, you gotta get ready to catch all the stuff as it starts falling out of the thing. It's just the way it goes. The other one is a regular line vehicle, a black and white, that is gonna be replacing one of the current, black and whites that are part of the patrol division, and that's why it's an Explorer. We don't need a Tahoe for that.
So it's 2 Tahoes and 1 Explorer?
That's correct.
If I'm hearing that right.
Yep.
I mean, one's 103, the others are 90 plus or some $1,000.
Yeah,
Roughly, yeah.
the regular Cruiser is 88,477. Cruiser 625 would be the command vehicle, that's 92, and then the K-9 vehicle's 103.7. Some of the stuff in the K-9 vehicle is expensive. I mean, there's a system in there that if the car starts to get hot, it will automatically turn on the air conditioner, drop the windows, and turn on the fans,
Come on.
so that the dog does not die. Because if either Frankie or Ben were to expire in the heated back car, this would be the last time you'd see me here.
See any of us.
Well, just like I don't have experience replacing 18,000 feet of sprinkler heads, I never bought a police car before, so I have no idea what the price is, but.
Yeah, I mean, all of it's on the thing. I mean,
Yeah, no, I
the
saw all
stuff,
of it.
it's just, are they getting more expensive? Yeah, light bars are expensive. Radios, the computer, the MDTs or mobile data terminals, or the computer that's in the car is a mil-spec computer. We already tried to use, hey, let's just get a $1,000 Dell and stick it in there. But when you go from 0 degrees to 100 and something degrees, summer, winter, basically the thing started to peel apart. So now we end up, we have patrol PCs, which you can basically run over with a car, and they will get damaged, but they'll still work. And those are what we use, but that's $5,000 just for that itself. And everything's gotta be put in the car so that if they're ever in an accident, it doesn't come back to hurt them. So it's, you know, the way that we put them in there, gun racks, you know, just et cetera. The prisoner cage in the back. And of course, they keep changing just enough on the Explorers so that you can't move with this stuff from one cruiser to another cruiser from, you know, because we keep our cars 4 to 5 years due to the number of cars that we have, so we're not turning them over. You know, like when I first started, we were turning cars over every 2 years. They were functionally dead after the first year, but we had to keep them for the second year, and all we had was like
talked
7 or
about
8.
that at the police station tour in terms of how you rotate them through, and I noticed there's only 3 cars, that just at $100,000 a piece, I just thought I'd ask.
We usually ask for 5, but we just don't, we only needed 3. Only 3 this year met our replacement guidelines. And I think I kind of mentioned that as well. We had a couple of cruiser accidents in which the cars were replaced through insurance. It's not the way that we want to replace the cars, but it also meant that we didn't have to ask for as many this year.
Maybe not a bad strategy.
No, I don't like it. No one was hurt.
All right, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Steve, if I can, because
Yeah.
I do it for the state police, they turn it to the Tahoes too. Just, it's just more for the equipment, because they carry so much strong, you know, they got all that stuff. But that's outfitted too, so that's
I get it.
MHQ, that's everything.
I know it's not just an off-the-line car.
Right,
I
yeah,
know
just
it's
so
got
people
gear in it.
out in the audience, the public knows.
Sure.
Because you can buy it cheaper, but, you know, it's painted, putting emblems on, it's all that stuff.
I get it.
It goes, go.
Yeah,
It's-
the upfitting is, like, the towels themselves are 55.
Yeah,
It's 55,000, and then you have to, and then the rest of it is all the equipment that's added on, that's in it, or the paint and everything else.
in MHQ, they're the only game in town. If you go out to Oxford to see their yard, there's cruises from every town, everywhere. I mean,
Everybody's gonna buy from them,
Yeah, yeah.
It's got the state contract.
because we're getting a great price for that state.
The prices for everything that we bought, every single thing, is through a state
I get it,
contract.
I get it.
I just went through it, and I hate to say it, but I paid a little bit more than that they had.
And dress is good.
Yeah. Are you all set?
Yes, sir, that's all I have.
Councilman?
I don't have a lot with Councilor Malloy's questions, which I think are good. I did have some familiarity with the vehicle replacement program and the sprinkler system, but I think, you know, it's great to have that additional clarity for the room. You know, as I look through the tier 1 request, there's nothing that really, you know, it jumps out at me as being well out of place, and frankly, not much that's going to move the needle in terms of managing our savings and kind of helping our budget. So, to me, the proposal, you know, which I think we made, which is to focus on tier 1 for now, save tier 2 and tier 3 for another day, seems to make a lot of sense. You know, especially if we're combining it with our broader goal of defining our financial strategy for the long term. So I don't have any specific questions on the tier 1 on the tier 1 elements. I do have one question, actually 2 questions on tier 2, which I just want to better understand them. You know, both, I think, one's in school and one is in IT. If you can just speak to the 300, I guess, teacher laptop replacements and the 375,000 in teacher laptop replacements and the classroom infrastructure improvements. And why do we not need them this year versus?
Hi, Tim Raposa, Director of Technology, Town of Franklin and the Franklin Public Schools. I can speak to the laptop replacement. I would love to do them this year. As you know, it's just a big ticket item. I think it's just an issue of affordability, but those 300 laptops were purchased in 2020. They are only 6 years old, which means the opportunity that we may have to replace them is next year if we have the money. Teachers are using 7-year devices that are out of warranty, and actually was having our staff meeting today, and they're saying what do we do when the motherboards are dying on these devices, because they are, and the batteries are not lasting because they're already 6 years old? I say, well, we have to start replacing them, and that means it comes out of our regular budget. So over the course of this year, those old devices are going to eat up a lot of the funds of the technology budget. So.
Thank you.
Well, it's not that, maybe you can speak to the
Yeah, while
Chromebooks.
he's up here, yeah.
The Chromebooks are for students, and we, that is in the tier one. That is our replacement for the entering sixth graders. And those devices, roughly, we plan on trying to get anywhere between 300 and 350 devices, because as you know, those prices vary greatly. So $100,000 will give us somewhere in that range. And those students are expected to have those, believe it or not, from sixth grade all the way through graduation.
Is there another IT question before?
Yes, I have an IT question.
Sorry?
I have an IT
Well,
question.
Ken's up, he has the floor.
If I can have the time back, go ahead and ask your IT question.
Yeah. So I just was curious about the virtual environment and the access point licenses.
Yes.
And what were the vendors for those, and how do you go about choosing them? Do you do a comparative bid for them when you get them?
The access point licenses they're pretty standard. I usually am pretty good at trying to get us some discounts on those. I already have a quote for that. Those, I believe that quote may have came from a Wally computer, I'm not sure. But so what happens with that is you're going to get the same price no matter who you go to. And here's why. So Extreme is the name of the company that owns these access points. There's one right above your head right there. So what Extreme does, that company, they don't give you a licensing quote themselves. You have to go through a vendor, right? They don't deal directly with you. Only Dell deals direct. Everyone else goes through a reseller. So what they do, so that I don't ask 4 different resellers to say, I need a quote, I need a quote, I need a quote, I need a quote, so I can get comparative quotes. They tell me, listen, what vendor do you want to work with? Because we're only going to give one vendor the discount pricing. We're not going to give them all discount pricing. We're only going to give one. And that's called a registered deal. That's how they work. That's not us doing it. That's how the company does it. That's how Extreme does it. HP does it that way. They all do it that way.
It's not just the government, it's everybody.
It's the seller, and here's why. Because they don't want to get 5, 6 different people all asking them for the same quote, and then having to, and then letting them all battle it out. They just say, listen, we're going to give you discounted pricing. Pick your vendor. Who do you want to work with?
And we'll give it to him.
It's called a preferred vendor, and once that vendor registers the deal, the other vendors are locked out from getting that discount. That's how it works.
Does that violate antitrust laws?
I have no idea, I'm not a lawyer. I just know that that's how it worked. And so, and sometimes if I do ask multiple ones, they'll, the other vendor will call me up and they'll say, somebody already registered this deal, have you asked someone else? And I say, yeah, I asked 3 different vendors because I like to get 3 quotes. And they say, well, we can't get a discount now, so that's it, that's how it works. But that's the discount. Yeah,
Max, so the vendor's already chosen here. We use Extreme, that's the vendor, and it's just the reseller that he has to be locked into.
Right, the
Some of them-
manufacturer is Extreme.
Yeah, some of them get a better, they say, oh, we have a better deal with Extreme, we can get you a better price or whatever, but, once, like you said, once it's locked in, you're kind of locked into that vendor. They won't let you kind of move around, even try to shop it. Sometimes you can. Most times.
What about the virtual environments? Is that a server? Is it software? Is it support for the software?
The virtual environment is, you've all heard the term virtualization, right? It basically means instead of having 100, hardware boxes everywhere, you have a stack of really big servers, like, 2 or 3 of them. We have 2 here at the town hall and 2 at the high school, and they're mirrored, they're identical servers. On those servers, you virtualize 100 servers in them. So a big piece of hardware, it's not really a server, it's an environment, right? And then you have these 100 servers that you can create within them. They're virtual, they're not real pieces of hardware. So that's what that is. And they're identical stacks, they replicate towards you. Everything on the town is replicated at the high school server and vice versa. So that if one of these stacks fail, we can fail over to the other server, and within several hours, bring them up and have the town running over there, or have the schools running over here. And obviously, it's a backup system as well.
So in terms of the provider for that, is that something, I mean, I assume the infrastructure is already there, so you can't just shop around for that, it's already there?
So that was purchased 6 years ago. Very expensive, way more expensive today. So typically we would have been replacing this by now. It should, industry standard in private industry, they would have been replaced a year ago. And probably more than a year ago, every 3 years. But we extended ours 3 years because the hardware is still working great, knock on wood, right? It's working okay, so I mean, it's not like the police cars that are getting beat up and we have to replace them. It's still working, it's still working well, as long as I can cover the hardware, get someone to, basically, it's not really an insurance policy, but you know how you get a maintenance plan on you when you buy a laptop? You get a 3-year, maintenance plan, that's what I'm extending. I'm saying, okay, well, we had it for 6 years, can I find somebody out there that'll give me 2 more? And they're not gonna go more than 2 because they know it's gonna break, and so that's what that is. So I'm extending that environment age another 2 years, and it's still, with it still being covered. If I could not cover it, I would have to replace it. So this is it, in 2 years, big bill to replace that. But in 2 years, we don't know. Virtual cloud storage, which a lot of people are moving out of the cloud back to physical where we are, because it's just getting so expensive. Why? Because AI compute is eating up all that hardware out there in the cloud. So it's becoming more and more expensive, supply and demand, right? So moving, we don't have to move back because we're already here, we never left, because it's cheaper for us to have it here on premise. However, we will have to replace that hardware in 2 years. And it's gonna be $500,000, at least.
Who's the hardware vendor and who's the virtualization vendor?
Dell is the hardware vendor, but we purchased everything from Dell Direct because we get a good deal. But with the exception of the virtual stack, because the virtual stack is not just a PC, it's not just a computer, it is a system, right? So you want to have a value-added reseller that knows what they're doing when they provide that system. So when we had it put in 6 years ago, it was Window Technologies. That they are a Dell certified value-added reseller. They did a fantastic job. So we're going to have them support it for the next 2 years. They gave us a quote for that.
Microsoft, Hyper-V?
It is Hyper-V. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we've always used Hyper-V right from the get-go. We, thank God, never went to VMware because all those people who did are scrambling these days. But yeah, Hyper-V has always fulfilled our needs. We don't need a huge virtualization system. We just need to virtualize our servers to stop having hardware distributed everywhere. And Hyper-V has worked great.
The last question before I get it back to Ken, who lends me a lot of his time. The Chromebooks, are they, are you going to be, is that something that you're going to be asking for every year for a similar amount?
We have been asking for it every year. So we're in the COVID hangover right now, right? So in 2020, we bought 4,500 Chromebooks. It was $1 million. They're all the same age. So we had to put a stake in the ground of when we're going to stop replacing these. They're all, well, do the math, right? They're all 6 years old now. So we have a lot of not too happy parents with 10th and 11th graders that have these really old Chromebooks that we just can't replace them. They're breaking, we're fixing them, but we're in that replacement cycle now, right? So we had to say, when are we going to stop replacing these? So yes, every year I'll be asking for $100,000 for 350 Chromebooks, and that will move us over the course of the years to get that replacement cycle. Should that be in my regular budget? I know that's going to be the next question. Yes, it should. But I can just increase my regular budget by $100,000, unless you guys say I have to. Then we will.
Back to Ken.
No, that was it for IT. I think I thought it made sense to just have you answer all the questions that you want to get.
Yes, exactly.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
My other question was for the schools. Just I wanted more context or color around the classroom infrastructure improvements and just how that's a tier 2, which is frankly not something I'm going to support today. But I just wanted to better understand what's included there and what the time frame is.
So as a result of the district reorganization, obviously we picked up classrooms in every school shuffled people around, moved out of certain buildings, and then reset. What we learned is we did some walkthroughs with facilities, with operations, with trades, to really look across the board at each of the schools. We ended up moving middle schoolers into elementaries into middle schools. So you have a science lab in the middle with a gas turn in a current third grade classroom. So that was like priority one, is how do we make these actually suited for the age and the grades that the students would be learning in. So that was phase one. After that, when we moved everything, what you realize is, Washington Street is built in '96. You start looking at the walls, wall repair, holes, just things that happen over the course of a 25-year period. Tiles that needed to be replaced, things like that. Those weren't immediate needs when we first moved, but then ultimately a list was put together with Colin and with Kevin and the trades to look at. If we were to chip away at these items, what would it take to get some of these things up to speed? So they have a full list of things that they've chipped away. What I'd say is this goes towards allowing the tradesmen to have the tradespeople to have the things that they need to continue to keep up with the work and the repairs and the investments in these facilities. The last piece I'd say is they've tiered it. I don't want to confuse tiers, so I'll try to. But they've broken down like their next phase of areas in which need the most attention right now. We have some old carpet in a middle school science room right now, where in a science lab, carpet's not really what you should have in that room. Did it make tier one? No, because I wasn't going to sit here and say, I need carpet out of the science room when we need a police vehicle. But ultimately, that's how we were asked to put together the capital program. And this is ultimately part of, once again, like a multi-year asks around capital, that just how we would continue to chip away and working together as a team. And I will say, my son's a senior. He's had that Chromebook, and it's
Pretty old.
I'm handing that thing, and it's going to be like smoking by the time.
Just throw it in the garbage.
Yeah, okay.
Same as the recycle fee.
Okay, so I think,
No, just, the only thing that I'll add is, I met with Colin, Steve, Richard, and we're gonna continue to work on items, phase 2 items from the redistricting, but when we met, we looked at our bandwidth on what the list was and what we could actually do, so. Just saying
so I appreciate that. For me, I think it's important, it'll be a broken record a little bit, that, we're looking tactically at what we can practically accomplish and what's necessary for today, but also thinking more strategically about what's our long-term plan, what's our goal. I know we ask you to do that, and that's something that we need to do as well for ourselves. It's good to hear that that's what's happening, so that's what you're actually bringing to the table. That said, my broader comment, as I look through this, is I kind of started here, was tier 1 feels like it makes sense. There's some things in tier 2 that might also be nice, but given that tiers 2 and 3 are not necessary, or not immediately necessary for today, it makes sense for us to take the approach of looking at tier 1. That's what I would support. But we need to, as I said before with the operating budget, make sure that we are working on a plan for how we approach these. And if it's something that's in the capital budget that really should be an operating expense, we need to be thinking about how we manage that in the future as well. To Councilor LeBlanc's point earlier, it's going to take us some time to get there, but I think we just need to make sure, we need to be clear that we are committed to making those adjustments because they're really necessary. My 2 cents.
You all set? Tim?
So, our big computer friend, come back to the mic. So it always sucks being the unpopular kid at the dance that no one wants to dance with, but that's me. Okay. So here we go. Go back to that. We got that one-time federal money during COVID to buy 4,500 Chromebooks. But if I understand it correctly, having sat here for a few years, there really isn't a plan in the school department operating budget to fund the maintenance and replacements of those computers, because you're coming to the capital program every year with the hope that we do that.
Correct.
That, to me, is insane, Jim.
I agree.
Like, I'm just, again, that's why no one wants to dance with me, right? But, like, we accepted that federal money, we bought these Chromebooks, being a dad with 2 kids in the school system and having replaced 4 Chromebooks already, even with the insurance, right? They're not optimal, but I understand that the school department shifted as that was the delivery model for education for 6th grade up. So I'm not questioning that, but if you make that decision to leave textbooks and go to the computers, then you have to also have a plan to pay for them when they break and they need replacement. So from where I'm sitting, the $100,000 for 6th grade Chromebooks doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It makes much more sense to look at the tier 2 request of the school safety improvements for $75,000, especially when I see today in the news that another school shooting happened in British Columbia, right? Like, and that's why we talked about doing these school improvements for safety a number of years ago, right? We were gonna phase in these necessary thresholds and buzzers and 2-way access points to truly make the school safe. I remember those conversations, right? So, I don't mean to put you on the spot, right? But maybe the larger conversation has to be to parents of the school department can do a group purchase and everybody's gonna pay the $250 as a fee, and maybe the kids will take better care of the computers if the parents own it. But to continue to put money from a capital when we're not doing sidewalks, when we're not doing, you know, our fire chief's gonna talk to us today about the needs for the fire truck, like, it's kinda nuts. And then I look at this report that was provided, this FY25 expenditure analysis by department for what departments actually contributed to free cash. And this is no offense, Lucas, to any of my friends over at the school department, I love you guys, but the school department contributed a whopping $34,000. Our veteran services department contributed more than that, and they're 2 people. So you're asking for $100,000 from a program that you contributed 35 to. But our police and our fire departments who contribute hundreds of thousands of dollars to this program, if you look at what's here, that makes sense to me, right? Because, all right, they're putting the money in, they're waiting for their safety equipment, they're waiting for their cruisers, they're waiting for their fire trucks, but they're hoping from fees and one-time money to get this stuff fixed. That makes sense to me. So and this may just go to the bigger operational deficit issue of the school department, right? That there just isn't the money to fund these computers. Okay, then phase them out or figure out a different way to pay for them. But this, as it's outlined right now, I can support everything else that's here in tier 1, but I can't support $100,000 for Chromebooks. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
I was gonna say the same thing, but you took my glory, so I
Well, I'm
agree
used
with
to
you.
that. I'm
Yeah,
used to
I agree with you.
I'm happy to answer any further questions that you may have about that. I was looking for a question in there, but.
Sorry.
There's no question.
Okay.
You answered the question by saying there isn't a plan to pay for these. You answered the question, and I appreciate the honesty.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I think just like many large capital purchases that support our budgets, if we could put that into our budget, we certainly would put it in operations and it wouldn't come before you. A good example too is we're always looking for ways to fund other things. One thing that didn't make this list, we received an earmark from Senator Roush for $100,000 to fix the courtyard area at the Lincoln Street School, that they had to tear out old equipment that was in the middle. So that was, originally we had proposed, hey, if we get that, we'll make like learning environments in the courtyard. It's like, nope, we have like a different need. We just need it fixed because it's got potholes, sinkholes, it's a complete mess. So that's not on the list, but that's where we were able to kind of find money to do that. Historically, we have had this program. We have a one-to-one device program like many communities within Massachusetts, particularly Northeast, around using devices. I think if you would ask, I think it's back to affordability. If we had every kid who shows up at our front door where they had to buy their own device, I think we'd be having similar conversations around affordability for many people. So some of this is an equity piece. Two, that as a school system, we say, hey, when you open the doors, it's free and appropriate.
Require it.
Right,
You cannot require them to buy a Chromebook.
right, right. You can't. So I think the idea is, I just wanted to frame it in a way that the other perspective to that is just trying to make sure that we're providing that particular service. And I think when we had the money, it came as one time. I think that was another example of trying to buy some time, multiple years to get out ahead, to try to, and then come up with a plan or a longer term strategy. So I think that was the goal then, like COVID time. We're talking now about longer term strategies, but ultimately just wanted to provide a little bit more perspective.
No, I appreciate that, Lucas, very much, and I do appreciate that there's an affordability piece, certainly, and maybe the solution is there's some computers that have to be on hand for kids that can't afford them, or kids that are on free lunch, for example, like maybe there is something that can be done so that equity piece, and you don't want to shame some kid that can't afford a computer,
Right.
that's not my intention.
I'm not taking that.
But still, like now we're talking about, you're gonna need these computers this year, and you just said you're gonna need to come to us every year for the next foreseeable, well, probably forever, right? Because every 6 years, you're gonna be replacing the previous
Yeah,
waves
so
of computers, right?
just to give you a little history, we've been doing one-to-one for 10 years, right? It started with the high school. The reason that it exploded to 4,500 in 2020 is obviously because everyone went home and everyone had to have a Chromebook. So what happened was we started with one-to-one at the high school, and we had our roughly 2,000 Chromebooks there, and that was sustainable. We were purchasing them with capital, but it was sustainable because we were just replacing, one grade level a year, one grade level every 2 years, and it was sustainable. Then it moved into the middle school. This is all before COVID, right? And so we had our cache of Chromebooks, and they were getting aged, but it was manageable. And yes, were we refilling the ones that were broken with some one-time funds? Yes. Some budget funds? Yes. When we hit COVID, it's when we bought so many at one time. That's what, and it's not just us. Every school district went through this. Everybody bought thousands of Chromebooks to send all their kids home during COVID to teach them remotely. That's just what happened, and everyone is in the same boat. Everyone should be moving to a more sustainable repair program. Yes. All the money that we collect from insurance, just so you know, goes into a revolving fund. That is the money that we use to repair and replace the devices that are insured, that qualify for replacement. And the third piece that I really want to mention that was not really driven home is we chose a program based around online learning on Chromebooks. 10 years ago, we chose to go in that direction. I agree, they should have been managed and funded better, and when we went through the bump of COVID, it exacerbated the problem. But one thing that it has to be made very clear is that you cannot require a student to have their own device. You can't say, in order to do our curriculum, you have to buy a device and come to school and have a Chromebook. We have to provide it for them. Why? Well, the state has this thing called MCAS, and MCAS has to be done on a device. So we have to provide those devices. We have no choice. We have to do it. There is no paper-based MCAS anymore. So even if we said, hey, you all have to bring in your own devices, we still have to have enough Chromebooks on hand to test 1,200 kids during MCAS. That's a lot less than 4,500, I agree. But that requirement of requiring a student to come in with a device, or you can't come to school, private schools can do that, public schools can't do that. So that's really where we are. So we're kind of stuck in that mode. So I hope I explained that correctly.
Well, wait a minute, Max. Jean had a question, then you can have a question.
Okay, thank you. What happens when a student breaks a Chromebook?
The one-to-one Chromebooks that are taken home, which is middle and high, they are offered the opportunity to purchase insurance every year at the beginning of the year. It is not required that they purchase it. We strongly encourage that they do. If it is insured and it's accidental damage, it is repaired or replaced. They're insured. If it is not insured, it's a $250 fee, just like if you were to lose a book or break a microscope, you have to refund the school for what you broke.
And how much is the insurance cost?
$45
For the whole year?
for the whole year. Yeah. And we insure them to the end of September, third week in September, so that they can keep them over the summer. We can, at the end of the summer, when they come back in, we can get all those ones that were broken over the summer and they're still insured, so they don't have to worry, we don't have to worry about that, get them all fixed before the new insurance kicks in. And in that time, we're telling everybody, go buy your insurance. So it's a good system. We do occasionally run into that problem of, well, I didn't buy the insurance and it broke and it was an accident. Well, if you didn't buy insurance on your car and you got into an accident, what would the insurance company say? Well, they're not gonna say you can buy the insurance now. Oh, gee, it's just how it is, right? That's what insurance is for. The other thing that we always run into is intentional damage. If you key your own car and go to the insurance company, they're gonna say, well, you did it yourself. We're not gonna cover you. It's the same thing. Intentional damage is not covered whether you're insured or not. It just makes sense, right? So we run into that, and we have to have those uncomfortable conversations, but that's the system that we have in place now. We are always looking to improve it, but that's where we are now.
This is kind of a crazy question, but hypothetically, could you give people a Chromebook, but also have them opt out and pay them if they opt out, so that they're incentivized to use their own laptop and it still costs less than getting a Chromebook?
No, I never really explored that, but that's an interesting concept. I don't think I could get that to fly by finance, to be honest.
All right, yes, I'll yield back. Go ahead.
And I was just gonna, if you were done, I was just gonna recognize Al Charles has got his hand up. I just let him as a panelist if the chair wants to let him ask his question. School committee member Al Charles.
Well, Caroline's, while he's still here, standing up, we'll let him, but that's kind of the way capital goes. All right, Al, if you want to ask a question, go ahead.
Sure, thank you. And I've been listening to this and definitely appreciate the conversation. I just wanted just to confirm though, if we have students use their own laptops or devices, does that add more technical challenges that we have to account for? Because now we're supporting numerous different devices that we hadn't planned for, and in comparison to knowing that we have these set type of models of Chromebooks.
Well, that is an interesting question, and there's two pieces to that. There's the educational piece, and there is the support piece. So number one, if you choose BYOD, and we do have the option of BYOD at the high school level, and that is a educational decision comes from the principal of the school. If they choose to allow BYOD, it actually makes it easier for us because we don't support it. If your own device breaks, you go get it fixed,
Right.
and go get a loaner out of the media center for the day. That's how it works. So for the tech department, it makes our life a little easier. For the educational environment, it makes it a little bit more challenging because we have management tools that the teachers use, particularly at the middle school level. They use a software called Securely Classroom. And what Securely Classroom is, it allows the teacher to see the devices that the students are on, and among other things, send things to their device, the Chromebook screen. With a personally owned BYOD device, that becomes not possible anymore because we're not managing that device. All that magic happens when we manage that device, right, behind the scenes. They're not really using that software at the high school. So at the middle school level, we kind of are in the position of, well, we kind of have to be providing the devices if we want to manage it and use the software that we're paying for to manage this. So, educationally, a BYOD in the educational arena makes it more difficult for the teacher and for the curriculum. Makes it easier for the tech department. Putting all devices, us owning all of the devices, makes it more difficult for the tech department to obviously maintain more devices that we own, but it makes it a lot easier for the educational environment. So, does that make sense?
Just a quick
He has a
question.
clarifying.
Clarifying question. Can you do the MCAS on a personal device?
No.
So that you would, every year, you would have to give them.
Right, so in high school, for example, we do have roughly 50 to 75 BYOD devices.
Yeah.
When MCAS comes along, they have to head to the media center that morning, and we have to make sure that we have enough devices so they can grab a Chromebook, log into it, and do their MCAS test that day.
Okay, good question. Anybody else for the tech department? No. All right, you can go home. All right, Councilor Griffin, you're up.
All right. So similar to Councilor Mtg, I actually don't have any questions about the town tier or tier 1. But sorry, Lucas, I'm going to make you come up here for a third time because we didn't get you all the questions for you while you were up here. But I would like to ask about the tier 2, the district-wide safety or school safety improvements, and why that is a tier 2. That seems to be the only item that is safety related that is not in tier 1. And so I'm just
Yeah, so some of that is related to camera replacement. We have cameras throughout our schools in many different areas. So on the hallway, you might see on a 100-foot hallway, 2 or 3 cameras. We have ones that are either aging out or need to be replaced because they're not working. So part of that was around trying to just keep up with the replacement. What we have done at the schools and through the help of facilities and those investments that previous council has approved is we've done a lot of multi-year asks for school safety. So every one of our schools has a pedestrian trap now. I remember when I was an assistant super, we had certain schools that didn't. We had a big safety assessment done by Synergy and the state police, and they said that's one of the best things you can do is just get the double, if you've been to the schools, it's the double buzz in. So that didn't, we had a single door open. So now we have that, that's done. That project was completed over years of having capital investments that happened. Some of the schools with the cameras that we have, we would look to repair or replace, and we know that they're on a cycle, so we don't want to wait until they're all gone and then we come with some larger number. But ultimately what we decided was when we looked at tiering, and it's part of the discussion a couple of hours ago too around, you can do all the capital or you can have an unbalanced budget for a year. Or you can balance the budget and then decide on prioritizing capital. I think those are the discussions that need, that's what's happening, right? So ultimately, that's what those mean.
So
And the servers.
okay.
Because I think Tim talked a little bit about it, but the school safety, the camera servers are a different server than what Tim's talking about. So those are going to hit an age where they will need to be replaced, so that was part of it too, was trying to slowly start to chip away at those.
So if we don't do that this year, I assume that will be next year, and
It'd
it's
be
going to
more
be additional?
next year, yes.
So it'd be a bigger number
It's
next year?
similar to what I think Bruce talked a little bit about when
Right.
we don't do it. It's just like with the special ed van, if we didn't do it and then it fails mid-year, we have to, I don't know what we'll do. We have a spare van that's kind of on its last leg. This is the last one that's over 10 years old, over 150,000. If we get, and then we were lucky we had an earmark from Rep. Roy to have additional van put in. That was good. We worked with Jamie last year to include another van, I think it was 2 years ago. So we've tried to patch. We're on the last leg. Next year we'd be asking for 2. So that's kind of how I would predict that would go. So that's how that ended up in tier 1, was just trying to make sure that we have that first priority.
Okay, yeah, so I understand the ban. So I'm just trying to figure out the safety improvements.
Mhm.
This year, you're thinking that they're not like critical for this year?
No,
Or, I mean-
they did not make the first tier because we were trying to, like I said, trying to manage multi-years of replacement, repair, but ultimately, and if they were, I would say that to you, and I would have advocated harder for that to be tier 1, but we're hitting that point. It's similar to some of the access points and some of the other technology decay, if you will, is a real thing, and I think we're all experiencing it in our different areas. So that's the example I give.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I had that same question. You know, safety to me is very important in the schools, obviously, especially with what's going on everywhere in the world. That's why I was kind of hoping that we could make sure that.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to putting that into,
Yeah, no,
putting that into this.
I'm not either.
I
You know,
just, yeah,
you know,
it's the only safety, from what I could see, it's the
Yeah.
only safety item that's on.
Plus, that's how Lucas caught my son stealing his locker.
You brought it up, not
Thank you, Lucas. That is actually my only question.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay, you're
That's
good?
it. I'm good.
Councilor Blank?
All right. Jamie, through the chair to Jamie. Jamie, 1 + 1 = 3 when it comes to how free cash is calculated. So I'm not expecting an answer tonight, but Carrie, I probably have to sit down with you. Because when I look at the numbers, when you look at the sources, the excess revenue was $1.5 million. The excess department returns was $2 million. That's 3.5. Where's the other $1 million coming from?
That's from overlay surplus.
Explain overlay surplus.
I was just gonna say that.
We have a 10 o'clock curfew.
Yes, I know that. So that's why I'm.
Unless we vote to extend.
Right.
So there's a whole PowerPoint presentation that we were gonna do with the Finance Committee recently on overlay surplus. So overlay surplus is abatements and, I'm gonna boil it down to one sentence.
Okay, 1 sentence.
Abatements and exemptions in the budget, when those aren't spent, okay, then they go into your free cash certification. The issue with overlay surplus is a surplus amount of money that's controlled single-handedly and unilaterally by the Board of Assessors. Fun fact for all of you, that's actually, the Board of Assessors are who you thank every year for our senior tax work-off program. Most people don't know it, but you pay the senior tax work-off program out of the overlay surplus account.
Right.
Overlay surplus has a whole other statutory thing. You can Google it tomorrow and geek out on it. It actually counts it actually counts within your free cash certification, but it's very, very complicated to explain how the Board of Assessors still have it, and they have to authorize it, but it still comes on your balance sheet, on your recap, when we go through all of our financial audits with DOR, and that's how they come out to a free cash certification at the end of the year.
Right.
So there's where your difference is,
Right.
and
I'll get an education offline, so.
you can go have fun with it.
That's right, exactly.
I know, it's like, it feels like a government term coming out of the middle of nowhere, like, as y'all haven't learned enough.
Yeah.
Right, and it's like, overlay surplus, where's, what? And Kevin's laughing, but that's the third bucket.
Right.
But we can still meet.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna meet.
Yeah, you should definitely meet.
Yeah,
Block a couple hours with Mr. Doyle if you're gonna meet, just for an overlay surplus, right, Kevin? Because he will teach you how to build the clock.
I'll bring the drinks.
Bring coffee.
One of the things I like about the way the budget book is, and we talked about tiers, it's actually not the tiers, it's the prioritization, your classifications in there. I think that's very important, and I think for consistency year over year, we probably need to give definitions around these things. And right now, I would actually argue, right now you have tier 1 is threat to citizens, safety, blah, blah, blah. 2 is maintenance of operational necessity. 3 is requirements of state or federal law. I actually would flip 3 and 2, because to me, if it's a federal or state or it's a law requirement, then it probably takes precedent over operational. So going forward, I'd probably look to switch those. But I think that's the key to determining any budget, is to have each of the departments put their prioritizations based upon what these classifications are, which is what they did. There's probably some loose interpretation, but we gotta nail down those pieces, because ultimately, what you did with the capital plan and what you put into tier 1 was anything that was classified as 1, with the exception of 1 item, and that item probably was really not a threat to citizens or employees, so it probably could have been a 2 or a 4, actually. So I appreciate that. One question I am gonna ask the departments that are here tonight is, there are almost 3 dozen departments here, but there's only 8 departments making requests for capital. Do any of the other departments have requests for capital that didn't make this book for some reason? That just seems highly unusual, that 36 departments, and there's only, there's one person jumping up. I'm trying to understand why isn't there something in there for the library? Why isn't it there,
So, quickly, one issue is, if you notice, the school department requests are only about $300,000. Why? Because technology is all in technology.
Yeah.
Facilities are all in facilities.
They were on my
right?
question as well, too,
Okay.
yeah.
And then number 2, we did start asking other departments. We just started this about 2 or 3 years ago. You know, before then, I don't even think all of these departments 10 years ago were asked necessarily. But if the town clerk needs a voting machine, and I just happen to look right at her, right? She just walks upstairs and says, how do we fund this? You know, I have an election in a year, we want to stay ahead of this, and then we try to figure out a way to pay for it. But most of the other items that you're gonna see from them are either very low cost dollars, they're not gonna be very expensive, and there may be another way to pay for them. There may be a grant, there may be, maybe instead of going to free cash, we pay out of the clerks if there's a surplus. I'm just giving that as an example.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons, and it just helps streamline things for all of us to just focus on the 8 or 9 or 10 big ones. But if the library had something, they had a capital request last year, we funded it through Community Preservation Act. I just use those as a handful of examples of, you know, sometimes we can, you know, draw some of those capital requests on one-offs from another source that may not be from free cash.
And that ties back to, that's why we need a 10-year plan that literally lists everything, regardless of how it's gonna get funded, and then we figure out the funding source at a later date.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree with that.
Okay. To my question.
Mr. Chairman, to you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know where to start on this, but I will tell you.
You get 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Because I want to be out of here by 10.
Real quickly, you know, I did ask for a lot, we went through a process, but I gotta tell you, all my years here, you know, 20 plus, there's $10,000 on here. $10,000 on a $5+ million budget general fund. Even the worst years, 2009, we had the recession, Public Works still got over $200,000 for that stuff. $10,000, and that's the general fund share of replacing the fuel pumps, so we can fill the vehicles in town. So once again, this goes against the promise that we're running up against it, that we're not getting the funding that's there. The one I do want to bring up to you was on the tier 2, was the traffic study. You guys are all hearing about it. I get called all the time, traffic out here, traffic out here, traffic light. I did put on there for $150,000, I'm not sure where you can get it from, but that not only looks at, you know, the timing of the lights, you know, to move people quicker through town more efficiently, but also looking at the asset that we have out there. Those lights, they're $400,000 a whack, okay? You know those little pretty boxes that people painted? You know, the rats get in there and they eat those? We're not fixing this stuff. You know, the cameras work really well now. We still have a lot of wires in the road, you know, the signals that go on and off. This stuff we need to look at, because if we're not fixing it now, it's gonna cost more money. In the meantime, besides costing money, it's inconveniencing folks in town. So that's an asset, and that's gonna be, I don't know, $1 million over next year, how to plan for it. But we need to start planning for that now, because we're in reactatory mode with that stuff, and it just costs more. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Kevin?
I'm just gonna echo what Jamie said from a facilities perspective is, you know, I go around to all the departments, you know, again, more so looking at it as the building and the facility itself, and I'll meet with, you know, the respective department heads and give me your list, what you need, and then, you know, I prioritized it from there, and then again, putting it onto the sheet that finance team is looking for capital, that's how it goes. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Kevin. Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to solve it now, but if there are requests that, I mean, again, it's just unusual that there's 8 departments and there's 36 in total. One last question I had, Jamie, for you is, there is an item in here for the design review guidelines.
Yes.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. That request is going to be actually looked at through a grant. The design review committee has wanted to do an entire analysis of our sign bylaw, and it's a big master plan goal. But given the financial issues, I do think there are probably some grants out there that Marina can tap into, so she's going to try that first. But that, if she did, that is not a joke for an entire consultant to come in and just help. Right, redo an entire code of bylaws. We've looked at other communities, and that's what they were paying to have somebody assist the design review commission to do that. That was what the price was, but we brought it up, and she's going to try to get some grants first to see if we can finish that one off that way. But that's what that is, and I do think, as Councilor DeLarco knows, I mean, we've duct taped our way around the sign bylaw in town for a long time, and that does need an overhaul at some point.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think the design review needs to go beyond just being a sign committee. It needs to, needs to take into other things, so I'm all for trying to boost the status of the design review committee and how it plays into the development of the town, so, so that you answer that question. As it relates to the safety item, I don't know how we handle this, but I would be for swapping out the Chromebooks that are $100,000 for the safety improvement. I don't know if that has to be an amendment.
We have to amend.
We have to
Then
amend that.
then I'm gonna ask, I don't know, then I would ask to amend what's in front of us, to remove the $100,000 for the Chromebooks and put the $75,000 in for safety. Because it says safety, and safety is number one, that to
I
me is,
agree with
again,
you.
just was a misprioritization in the grand scheme of
I
things.
agree with you.
Now granted, Lucas, there may be already cameras there. I would feel terrible if that camera didn't work and something happened, and think what happened in Brown, think what happens today, all this stuff. So I would be, I guess I'm making an amendment to remove the $100,000 for the Chromebooks and replace it with the $75,000 for the safety improvements at the schools.
I think we have to do that when we do the resolution, right?
Yep.
We do.
Okay, that's right, we're talking about this right now, that's true, I forgot about that.
Hold that, Mike.
Yeah, no, hold that.
Could I just interject?
Yeah.
I don't disagree with what Mike said, but I'm not sure I want to reduce the Chromebooks. So could we just add the $75,000 for the school safety enhancement, so the amendment might be slightly different?
Let's vote on what I'm gonna amend first, and then I'll tell you the reason for that. Well, Ted stole my thunder a little bit about and you can throw me, maybe I'm not gonna get asked to dance either. I do think it's kind of unusual that a $70 million department turned back $30,000. I didn't pick that up, that you have a department of 2 people that turned back $40,000. I know that the school committee does a lot, there's a lot of things, and I want to understand that better. So that will be something that I'll do as a side note, because I do need to understand why a department of that size only can turn back $30,000, so.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I will answer that quickly. Because under state law, schools can keep all of their money from one fiscal year for the other, towns cannot. That's a state law. Number 2, there are very finite things that they have to turn back, and I will even admit to you guys, I don't know exactly why encumbrances get turned back, but I trust the school business administrator, I think she's around somewhere. Thank you, Jonna, that whatever was turned back and working with our comptroller was what was the few reasons why they make a few deposits. But schools under Massachusetts law, once they get their money, they keep their money and they can roll it from year to year. Am I?
No. Well, we have to expend it, or that's the small incremental amount that we do turn back. I will say our budget's built on a pretty fixed set amount, because most of it is salary driven, so you have to reconcile and pay your employees for the entire year. We don't have the same equipment items, we don't have the same predictive thing.
You don't have the same expenses.
Right, I think expenses is where it gets different. So when you look at our budget, the majority of it is salary. So when you commit to those salaries, that gets expended throughout the year. So I think that's how that budget is designed, I just would say. And that's the nature of school. I think if you looked at schools across the state, you'd see the same kind of metric. So I want to acknowledge we don't contribute to the capital program that's existed in the same way that other departments, but we also don't budget. If you want to give me 200 grand, I'll buy my own Chromebooks and I'll give you 100 grand back at the end of the year. You know what I mean? I just think we don't budget that way. And that's how we have the budget set for the year. That's how we expend it. And last night, if you watched last night, which many of you did, we tried to show like where is this money being committed to for that fiscal year.
Thank you. I'm all set, thank you.
Hey, Max,
Yes.
I know you talked to the.
Yeah, I had one other
IT,
question, Mr. Chairman. I had a question, I know Chromebooks got a lot of heat, but I want to ask, through you, the town administrator, whatever items on this list are gonna come up every year that we're gonna have to allocate a similar amount of money towards?
Through Mr. Chairman, just a quick, I think what Max is trying to get to is more operational stuff. So a lot of the public safety gear, I think we've talked about this for decades now, about why we can't fund, turnout gear for police. I mean, a lot of towns have cruisers in their budget. Like if you look at Natick, everybody loves Natick. they have in their budget cruisers, right? So they just buy 5 or 6 of them every year. We don't have anywhere near the tax levy as Natick or Needham or those communities. You're probably in here, portable radios would be an example, probably the Chromebooks. I think there would probably be a certain amount of money in Tim's budget on laptop replacements, that would probably be an annual cost. I don't think the access points fall into that category, but I think laptops and computers probably fall into that habitual thing. That's just a quick,
Okay.
like,
What
that's
about,
just,
police vehicles? Does that come up every year?
it does come up every year,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Yep. Sped vans have come up every year, but I think to the superintendent's point earlier, we've gotten pretty far ahead on those, so maybe there'll be a gap year at some point.
We put safety in there.
Yeah.
To the capital.
Those are the things that just jump off. I mean, I'm not reading through every spreadsheet here, but those are the things that jump off. The tasers, those are every year. The portable radios are every year. A lot of times in the past, I will say, we've gotten grants for some of this stuff from the federal government, and obviously those grant programs have dried up largely. I know they got a big radio one maybe 4 or 5 years ago that was for several years. Those are just a few of the things that I can think of. I'm sure the superintendent probably has some other stuff that he knows about.
I yield.
Okay.
I don't really have any questions because you guys asked them all.
Okay.
So, but
I would hope so.
and you asked, everybody asked something I had written down, because I had like 3 pages, so you guys should be counting your blessings. But I do want to say, just kind of touch on, because I've been actively watching the, trying to watch the finance in schools. And to your point with why they don't return money, here's an example. When we were talking about the senior center, the $750 for the sprinkler, and the gentleman came up with facilities, and that's what they're budgeting for, but he goes, could cost less. So if it costs only, say, $500,000, there's gonna be $250,000 that's not gonna get used, it's coming back to the town. With the schools, after they pay their salaries and everything that's unfunded, literally what's in their budget is already planned out to be spent to the penny to the end of the year. So if they do have $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 that comes back, then that's almost like a plus, because they're not over budgeting and just saying it could cost us less, but we're asking for this much more just in case. It's kind of like DPW, police or fire. They might ask for something and it's this amount, but when they go to do it, they got something different, so it didn't cost much. Money can come back to us. I think that's where the difference is between the town departments and the school departments. You know what I mean? Like, we get free cash from receipts, so when the ambulance goes out, that money comes back. The school's not doing that. And like with the police and stuff, I really do wish we could get to the point with the police and fire and the safety equipment, it just becomes part of an operational budget that they can just basically count on having every year, because they should have it. It's gonna take a while to get there. But I think that might be why the school's not returning as much. And trust me, I was hard on the school, so, for a few years, but I've been paying attention very closely to their meetings, and I think that's why they don't actually have the money to give back at the end of the year. They're really budgeted to the penny. That's just my opinion. But everybody asked all my questions, so I'm pretty much okay, and I yield, and I like tier 1.
You're up, Gene.
All right, well, I like tier 1 as well. I guess I'll just make a comment on both with the security and the Chromebooks. The security, if Lucas says we don't need it this year, if it's, you know, if the current cameras are okay, I'm fine without spending that money. But on the Chromebooks, these students, this is what their main device that they work on. They need to have a decent device to work on. I'm not for cutting back on that. I mean, if we want to talk about down the road in the future, changing the way we do Chromebooks, so the school takes care of them, or we wean them off this process of using capital, fine. But for this year, I'm definitely on board for replacing these Chromebooks, so that these students that keep them till the end of high school They need to have a good device to use, because it's the main thing that they work on. That's it for me.
That's it. Yeah, it's. Oh, I didn't get you? I'm sorry.
I
It's
commented
been a-
on technology,
Yeah.
but that was it.
Oh, I'm sorry, buddy.
No, okay, no, that's okay. Nice to see that Michael and I are going to the dance together. Keep each other company. So, it's really difficult because I feel like for years, we rally around these conversations and everybody gets into their camps and everybody makes these decisions like, oh, you're a pro-school guy, so that means you gotta be against the cops and the firemen and the fire staff. And I'm like, no, it's not the case. Like, you can absolutely want what's best for the whole town and still be critical of some decisions. And I realize that our place as a council is not to tell the school committee how to run the schools. But it is our place to question funding and to question how funding gets used. And everything is a decision, right? If the school department is, for example, making the decision that a main principal with 4 assistant principals is critically necessary at Franklin High School, it's a decision that they've made, and it's a decision that they're willing to fund at the detriment of something else. If they're making the decision to put 2 principals at an elementary school and 2 principals at another elementary school, those are Lucas's prerogatives to make those decisions. I'm not saying anything against that, right? But when you make those decisions, that means that money then isn't available somewhere else. And on an $80-something million budget, I don't care if you are the best budgeter on the planet, you can't possibly tell me that you're spending every penny down to the penny. And because every department deals with personnel. Every department deals with trying to make ends meet with very little. Yet every department, even the small ones, are cranking fees and turning it over. And I am embarrassed that our police department and our fire department and our DPW have to come to us every year with these lists. Why should our police department have to ask for protective gear? Why should our fire department have to ask for protective gear or radios? It's craziness, people, but we've talked about this now for 5 years, if not longer, right? But here they are. They tried putting in their operating budget one time that I've been here, and then it got taken away, right? One time. And I even remember Lucas's predecessor put some money in the budget for replacing Chromebooks. I think it was one time of 250 grand, but then it got taken away because other things became a priority. So like, I get it. You make choices. Every department head has to make choices with the money that they're given. For me, to what Councilor LeBlanc says, the safety concern at the school is absolutely more important right now to me than Chromebooks. Maybe there's a way for FY27, for Lucas and his group to go back and find the money for those Chromebooks. I don't know. But if we're saying to our police department and our fire department, you can't go back to your budgets and get these things, then unfortunately we have to be willing to have those uncomfortable conversations with our friends at the schools too. And that kills me, because my inbox is gonna be full now from everybody that said, I can't believe you said those things about the schools, I thought you were a pro-school guy. I am a pro-school guy. I 100% support our schools, I support our athletics, I support our arts, I support our music. I give and I give and I give as much as I possibly can. But these numbers aren't making a whole lot of sense. And I would support an amendment when it comes up, Councilor LeBlanc, about making that change for now. And maybe the Chromebook thing, Lucas, if over the next 4 months, 5 months, you guys just can't possibly figure it out, and we have to come back and talk about it again with some of these other tier 2 and tier 3 requests, then maybe that's what we gotta do. I don't know, but for now, for me, making sure that the schools are safe, making sure those cameras are replaced, making sure that I can sleep well at night knowing we've done everything possible to make the kids and the faculty safe in those buildings is far more important than those crappy Chromebooks. But that's it, Mr. Chairman. I'm sure Lucas is gonna have something, he's my neighbor, by the way, so he's gonna be
Really quick,
driveway
I just
that
wanna,
he
I
owes
just,
me tomorrow.
I just wanna comment on school security and school safety. What we need now are for people to recognize our schools are incredibly safe. I am almost out of breath. This is a study. If everybody on the council wants to vote for the study, I am fully supportive of it. I think it's a great project. I have no doubt. Where I gasp for air is hearing about school shootings in British Columbia and drawing that comparison all the way to Franklin and somehow portraying to our community that our schools are now not safe. What many of you probably don't know, Bobby, you should, Ted, I think you should, we have spent unbelievable amounts of millions of dollars in the last 10 years. I'd like to pat myself a little bit on the back. I'll give Mike D'Angelo a tremendous amount of credit who's not here. Same thing with Kevin, Lucas, Sarah, Miriam. There have been countless people in this community working on school security. Our schools are really, really safe. Every one of you should sleep really well at night. Really. But what happens is during these debates is message gets out on YouTube and on Zoom that we're not safe because we're worried. And I'm worried too. We're all worried. But I need people in this community to recognize there are a lot of people that also believe our schools are like prisons. There's cameras up in every single corner. If the superintendent or the facilities director walked in here and said, we have 80 broken cameras, our servers are down, we're not getting videotapes, I can assure you the superintendent would have put that #1 on his list, guaranteed without question. But he didn't. He did it because it is not an immediate emergency today. It's a study to look at this, and I'm going to tell you what the study's going to show. The study's going to show another several $1 million worth of improvements that need to be done in the next several years, all of which is worthwhile. We need to get those numbers on there. But where I truly get bewildered is that people don't feel safe. Not only do we have one of the best fire departments and police departments in the United States of America, we have one of the best school facilities and school buildings and the most upgraded school facilities of any other district in the area. Our schools are incredibly safe, and what I would appreciate is everybody in the room finally saying that to our children and families and assuring them that our schools are really safe. The superintendent even gave a breakdown of, I think, a couple of the projects we did a few years ago with the vestibules to make sure there was additional stuff. I mean, I can't say it any better, but I really would appreciate the support from everybody in assuring the public our schools are incredibly safe, and I have a feeling that's what Superintendent Jagier was going to get.
You stole a lot of my thunder. And I know I wouldn't take the bait. I wouldn't take the bait, but you got me, Ted.
But Lucas, you said the money was to replace broken cameras.
Right.
I didn't say it was to.
And the servers that
And
will need to be
you
replaced.
said that it was to help servers, so to contradict Jamie a little bit, it wasn't, you didn't say you wanted the money to study and see what was.
No,
broken.
study is not the right word. It's about keeping up and replacing as these items age and the ones that are broken needs repair.
Okay.
So that's the mix of both. And you can, hey, listen, I am all about it. What I don't like is the mischaracterization as though we don't value safety. And I think that's
No, I never.
yeah, that's how it came across. And the other thing that came across is
I wouldn't
I'm
set
really
my hands
tired
someplace
of
that
getting
wasn't-
pitted against my fellow department heads. We have been working really hard. Consolidated schools avoided costs of $3.2 million. We're still spending in the lowest percentile. We're doing everything we can, and we're sitting up here as though we're asking for luxuries. But then I'm getting pitted against, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not fighting with them. We came in all at 2.5%. Came in with a balanced budget. We're working really hard. We made a lot of shifts. I'm not alone. Every single department's done their version of a reorganization at some point. We just happen to have done it the last time. But it's really, really hard to sit in the department head meetings that we have and talk as a team about what we need. And I get it, the money's finite, but I'm not gonna get pitted against them. But when you frame things and the way you message things, even your comments about revolving funds and how they should be used, I get emails after you have a meeting about some of the things. So I have to clarify now misinformation. Our schools are safe. We should have, as a superintendent, I should be advocating. I had 3 things on there. They were tiered differently because you can't have it all. I think that was the heart of the discussion tonight. If there's a longer strategic meeting about what we need, I think you would see us wanting to put more into some of those other tiers that each of us had and have larger budgets. But ultimately, I feel as though we had an opportunity, and we still have it, to really come together and have the town council, school committee, FinCom group, and then our department heads for the first time in a few years have been more aligned under the leadership of Jamie in trying to make sure that we're really trying to swim and row in the right direction. And I feel like we're at a point, but I feel like what I just heard was, and you're entitled to your opinion on this, believe me, you're in a position to vote on the money. So I'm not arguing, this isn't my authority. But I would just say we were primed to kind of move through this in a way where we could stay unified. But comments like that, I think, detract and put us back to where we don't want to be in the battles and fighting for what people need. I want to support everybody here and everything you're doing. I think the plan you put together for 1 year while we sort out, there are difficult conversations, certainly. But to get through a way of not having to do this again, that's how I started, and I just would end it there. So I just need you to know, Ms. Cat, I feel like if I left here and I didn't say it, I wouldn't have stuck up for myself or our district to say, of course we prioritize student safety. We do have a need for the Chromebooks. I also know there are a lot of other people who have needs who spoke, and I think we're trying to find a balance. And I think you teed up the opportunity for that to find, and I think you're entitled to also disagree with my recommendations. I'm just doing my job to advocate for my department, but the one thing I've always done nonstop is try to always keep a perspective of the other departments at the same time when we're trying to do this.
I mean, I'm not going to reiterate, I agree with everything that Jamie and Lucas said on that subject, but for the last 10 years, all I've heard is the same stuff when it comes to the capital plan, and that, yes, the police cruisers that we buy every single year, 3 to 5 every single year. Bulletproof vests, yes, part of the capital plan. The TASER lease program, it's a lease, it's a 5-year lease, but it's out of the capital program. Why? Because your predecessors decided that they were gonna move that stuff out of operations so they could balance the budget without asking for an override or anything else to be able to do it. So that's the reason that this stuff that normally would not be in an operations budget is in the operations budget. So we can just, we're there, right? Everybody know now? Okay, because I mean, it happened when I was a lieutenant, because yes, the police vehicles were in our budget. There's even a GL that says police vehicles. It's just been zeroed out for the last 15 years. But that's the way it was, this is the way it is now. And the only reason you can't do anything about it, just admit it, is you don't have the money to take all this stuff out of capital and stick it into the operations budget. Otherwise, it's not $2 million we're looking for, we're looking for 5, we're looking for 6, or whatever else it is. Good luck, don't envy your job of how we do that, but let's just get to the real reason as to why, is because this town has had a structural deficit for 20+ years. And this is part of how they somewhat fixed it. And now it's come back to bite us in the you-know-what. Okay, thanks.
Absolutely right. But, I mean, I didn't get that we're talking about safety. That was a little bit out of.
And that is my fault. I was reading a different, in terms of the actual, I think, can you clarify, Lucas, or Kevin, are these going towards actual replacement cameras?
It's not a study. It's not a study.
Okay, it's not a study. Okay, that's my error.
You owe me an apology.
So, what?
You owe me an apology.
I'm very sorry, Ted.
Should be.
Okay,
That's
well,
uncalled for.
well, you know, I'm also, what you know.
I'm constantly defending you up here, constantly. I didn't deserve that, but whatever. We'll
All
move
right,
on.
let's move on. Let's move on. So I guess everybody said, I'm not gonna speak because we got 10 minutes. So, let's move on to legislation for action. Clerk will read resolution 2603.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution 26-03, free cash to stabilization account transfers, total requested $451,845. Purpose, continued funding of the stabilization fund per town policy. The OPEB trust fund, continued funding 10% of free cash from free cash with the amount of $451,845. Finance committee unanimously recommended this at 9-0 at their meeting on January 14th. The motion be it moved and voted by the town council that the sum of $451,845 be transferred from free cash to the OPEB trust fund in the amount and for the purpose outlined above. This resolution shall become effective according to provisions of the Town of Franklin Home Rule Charter.
You heard the resolution, do.
Second.
Motion to approve resolution 2603.
Second.
Can I just ask a clarification, Jamie? You've attached a memo here asking us to consider tabling this. Should I read that also?
Yes, please.
So, councilors, in your packet, there is also a recommendation by way of a memo from the town administrator dated February 6th for resolution 26-03. I'm requesting the town council table this vote until June 10th of 2026, when I anticipate a final budget vote. While staff are prioritizing and recommending to execute the town policy of 10% free cash going toward the OPEB trust, we think it is prudent to wait to enact this resolution until after final healthcare numbers arrive. Final numbers include any deficits and surpluses from the current healthcare consortium and/or the cost of the GIC after open enrollment. The Finance Committee has unanimously approved this request.
So, Jamie, now we have to make an amendment?
We just make a motion.
Well, we have a
We have a
motion.
motion on the floor.
We have a motion on the floor right now.
Yeah, you could amend
That's what I mean.
Can I ask a clarifier, Jamie? So the Finance Committee, according to one document, you said voted unanimously to recommend, but then you also put in your memo that they voted unanimously to table?
They did. That was a month and a half ago. That was before local aid came out and before the budget model was done. But in working with the staff and just seeing where the numbers were and looking where the budget was, we thought it would be advantageous to hold that in case there was another issue financially. And you could approve it in June, but at least it gives you 4 more months to see where the numbers pan out.
When do you want to table it to?
June 10th.
He wants to, if we were to amend and table, it would be till the June 10th meeting.
All right, so I make a motion to amend resolution 2603 to table it until June 10th.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor to move the resolution as amended to June 10th? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, it's tabled. All right, resolution 26-04. FY 26 capital plan.
I move to waive the reading. Oh, sorry, I think it wasn't.
He's gonna read it.
I was gonna move.
He's gonna waive the
it.
reading.
Oh.
Is anybody seconding Max's motion to waive it?
Is there a second?
Just a second.
Okay, all right, so we have a motion to waive the reading, and we have a second. Is there a discussion? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, do we want to?
How are you waiving a reading if there's gonna be an amendment?
You can still discuss it.
We can still discuss.
Okay.
Now you move the resolution. Move the
So,
resolution. Move
I'll make a
resolution.
motion to move resolution 2604.
Second.
And we have a motion and a second. Now we go to discussion. Okay. Go ahead, Max.
So I want to, we talked a lot about the issue of things that should be in the operating budget. And of course, I don't think that should be done today. But I do think it's worth having the joint budget subcommittee looking at when they're talking about the future of our town and how we want to fund things. So I have this amendment to do that. And so this is what it says. I did email it to Ted earlier and to Jamie. I move to amend Resolution 26-04 to insert before the last sentence, be it further resolved that the town council refers to the joint budget subcommittee for investigation and report the question of identifying recurring annual capital expenditures for schools, public safety, and technology currently funded through the capital improvement plan that should instead be funded through the annual operating budget, and to recommend sustainable funding strategies for such expenses. The subcommittee shall report its findings and recommendations to the town council by September 30th, 2026.
Is that a motion?
Mm-hmm.
I'll second that.
Second that, but we just had the discussion, we don't have the money. So,
Amendments?
it's amended.
It's a lovely thought.
No, it's to have them study. It's to have them study it.
Just to,
It's a study.
And we studied this over.
But it's okay.
Oh, it's okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No. Amendment failed.
I'd like to make an amendment.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to amend the capital expenditures to add back or add the 75,000 for the, do I need to specifically say that line so we don't get confused?
Yeah.
I don't have it in front of me.
District-wide school safety improvements.
Yes, thank you. To add that and to remove the $100,000 for the Chromebooks from the IT department.
Second.
Okay. Discussion?
No, Max is
You can add.
Oh, Kellen?
Yep, I think that it doesn't make sense to ignore Superintendent Jaguar's professional opinion about what he believes is the most pressing priority for the schools. I agree that our schools are safe. I think safety is important to keep at the forefront, and as he said, we'll have to replace more cameras later on. I would be in favor of adding it, but I would not be in favor of removing the line item of the Chromebooks, as the schools have said that is their top priority.
I would have to second that. I agree. Could we add it and keep the Chromebooks here?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. You can do both.
I think we have to vote on this one.
No, I know, but that was just a question I had to James. Steve? I know you're looking at me, but
I'm just trying to follow where we are and what we're doing.
There's a current amendment to replace.
So we're gonna vote on the amendment before we
A
vote.
current amendment
amendment to
replace the
replace.
Chromebooks
So
with
we
75,000.
but he wants to take out the 100,000 and add
Yeah.
75.
So we vote on the amendment, right?
The amendment is decreasing 100,000, adding 75, so they're losing 25.
Right.
Correct. Correct. For now.
Okay. So we vote on the amendment first, right? So let's vote on the amendment. Is there any more discussion? Max?
Yes, I just want to say I strongly oppose this motion. Yes, things have come a long way since I was in school and we didn't have Chromebooks, but this is something that, is going to be a shock to our students, waking up, going into the next grade, and not having something that their peers have. And also, yes, our schools are safe. We live in one of the safest parts of the country. Our crime rate has gone down year after year, especially in terms of violent crime. I think that, in putting some cameras on a building it's going to make us feel good, but is it really going to help us be safer? I don't think so. So I encourage a no vote on this motion.
All right, let's vote. All in favor?
I'm requesting a roll call, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I have to. But I'll request.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
But I'll
thought
re-
anybody
I
could
can
request a roll
read it,
call.
but it's good. We should just do roll call roll for the rest of it. Ted, all right?
So right now, if I understand it correctly, the amendment is to remove the $100,000
Yeah.
in tier one from Chromebooks and replace it with
With
$75,000 for the district-wide school safety improvements as outlined in tier two.
Right.
Counselor Ojukwu?
No.
Counselor Morangella?
No.
Counselor Malloy?
No.
Counselor LeBlanc?
Yes.
Counselor Griffith?
No.
Counselor Callaway Tripp?
No.
Myself is a yes. Counselor Grower?
No.
And Chair.
No.
So the amendment fails.
I would attain a motion to keep the $100,000 Chromebook and add the $75,000 for security.
Second.
Discussion. Vote on the amendment.
Good time, sir.
So, sorry, and just briefly, I can support this, but I will just call out that just remind us that the superintendent did just suggest that 75, they can wait a year on.
Right.
So, just mention this.
Mr. Chairman, can you read me the amendment again?
The amendment is to keep the $100,000 for the Chromebooks and add the $75,000 for the cameras.
So the amendment really would just be to add.
Add the
Yeah.
Just adding
Yeah.
Just add the 75.
for district-wide school safety.
Yeah, just add the 75. We've been talking about the Chromebooks so much, I had to add it in.
To the resolution.
We actually have to vote, we have to vote
Right.
to extend the meeting.
No, it's until the motion,
Yeah, when the next motion comes, when we're done with this, because this finishes.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I believe the amendment to Resolution 26-04 is to add $75,000 for the district-wide school safety improvements. We ready to call?
Yeah.
Roll. Counselor Ojukwu?
Yes.
Counselor Morangella?
No.
Counselor Malloy?
Yes.
Counselor LeBlanc?
Yes.
Counselor Griffith?
Yes.
Counselor Tripp?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Counselor Grower?
Yes.
Counselor DeLorco?
Yes.
Motion passes. Amendment passes.
Amendment passed.
So now do we have to do the full resolution?
We
right,
have to
Mr.
do
Chairman?
as amended.
Have to extend the meeting first.
Huh?
No,
Oh,
it's still
we
gonna-
have
still gonna be
to,
motion.
I think it's an agenda
No, I
item,
think
right?
we're
We
still
have to
working
do
on
it
this.
as agenda item.
Yeah, I think we're okay for now on the amendments.
yeah, until this one goes, the 2604,
Okay.
and then we have to vote on the,
To do the last two.
All right, so I make a motion to approve Resolution 2604 as amended.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No.
Anybody, just for the record, opposed?
No. Now we have to talk about extending the meeting.
I think we still want,
Yeah, gotta make a motion, vote on that majority rules if we go past 10 o'clock. So I'll make a motion to extend the meeting so we can finish the agenda.
Second.
Yeah, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting extended. First time. So did we vote on?
We approved the capital plan, so now we're on to enterprise.
Now we're on to enterprise.
We have kids.
Yeah, so, resolution 2605, FY 26 capital enterprise funds. Clerk will read the resolution.
Mr. Chairman, this is resolution 26-05, the appropriation of capital FY 26 enterprise funds.
Motion to waive the reading.
Fine.
Second.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, so make a motion to approve resolution 2605.
Second. You have a second.
I'll second it.
All, okay, discussion. Any discussion? Any discussion?
Yeah, it's enterprise funds. So, okay.
All right, you got a motion and a second on the floor, we'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No opposed. Resolution 2609, gifts acceptance, the Veteran Service Department, $450.
Motion to waive the reading.
Second.
Waiting for that.
All right.
All in favor?
Oh, wait, you have to make the next.
Discussion?
Yeah, no, but we have to.
Oh, for the reading.
For the reading.
All in favor, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion's passed.
Okay, make a motion to approve resolution 2609, gift acceptance.
Second, we have a second.
Second.
Discussion?
I'd just like to
Okay.
thank the donors, Mr. Chairman. I think it's only right that
Right.
we thank Ms. Borgia, Ms. White and Vera, Ms. Souza, and Ms. Scoba for the total of $450 to the Veteran Service Fund. Thank you very much to all of you.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Agreed. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Future agenda items?
Not for me.
I'm just gonna, you said no, right?
He said no.
I'm just gonna put in my monthly plug, to get subcommittees up and running again. I know we talked about those a little bit earlier, but I think I said it, now we're at
We
the
need help.
second.
We need help.
I know, but I think we made it clear that like we need a plan. We need, I would say, getting the budget subcommittees, getting the economic development subcommittees going. That will help us make that plan. So here's my monthly plug to get
Yeah,
subcommittees
I
going.
think we're gonna do liaison, so we get people in there.
But doesn't that run us aground of like string deliberation if you do liaisons? No? Yeah?
Technically, it does.
Yeah, technically it does, huh?
Yep.
Not really, but, you know,
Well, we'll
I
have
think
to,
the issue that's not being talked about is the bandwidth issue, and I'm sorry to continue to bring it up, but, I don't know who's gonna do these meetings.
because you can't, yeah.
What about the
I'm already
new
working, you know. Sorry, like, I know you don't wanna hear it, and I know people, it's late at night, but it's like getting very frustrating to keep adding more and more. We don't have the work, I don't know who's gonna do all this work. I'd love to have subcommittees, but I just don't know, I think they're on the goals, so maybe we'll finalize them on March 4th. But I'm just a little exhausted from it all, so I don't know who's gonna do all this work. So I'm so very sorry to say that, and I know that's not what people wanna hear. I wanna tell everybody yes, but I don't know how to have an EDC. The Joint Budget Committee, I will say, the Finance Committee is gonna pick their appointees on February 25th, so I think the Joint Budget can probably get up sometime, soon.
Mid-March.
But in terms of Councilor Callaway Tripp's comment about another budget committee or something, I think we have to all work together and figure out what the bandwidth is to do this and who's gonna staff those committees, because I can't do 4 nights a week of doing meetings. Like, this is just, if I gotta go to budget meetings too, I mean, it's just getting very, and yet, I obviously can see that there's probably not gonna be support for a deputy town administrator, and I understand that, but I don't know who else is gonna do all this work. Economic development is just getting very thin, and I'll stop there. Thank you.
Just respectfully,
Yeah.
Jamie, I understand you are stretched very thin. I
Tell
know
me.
that you are also doing the MMA work.
Yeah, it's over.
Which is, okay.
And maybe somebody could ask me what I do. Maybe somebody could ask me how much time I spend on it, maybe why I do it, and maybe the cost benefit of how it brings to the town, because I need to go bang Beacon Hill for money, because obviously here's a problem. So I know that people have that, but it's very frustrating because nobody comes and talks to me about it. Nobody says, what does it entail? What am I doing? My term's up. I don't even think anyone knows that. And it's very frustrating, you know? It really is. And then we just got to do more meetings, right? Which then leads to more drafting, more work, more agendas, more priorities, and I feel like all the department heads were here tonight saying, like the chief, like we're not managing expectations well. It's just very, very frustrating. So, and every time I make a small error, then I get grilled. So it's very, very tense. I have a lot going on. It's not just MMA. It's a lot of stuff here. So I think we need to talk a little bit more about what I do, what my hours are, and a lot of other dynamics about the bandwidth of myself, and in addition to the staff that are out here, the finance team and many others. Like, I think we have to have a really, really hard conversation about that, because this is not sustainable. So, sorry.
So if we're not going to fill subcommittees, do we need to vote to close them? Or do they just exist out there unfilled? I mean, I don't know. I mean, if we voted to open them, do we need to vote to close them?
I don't really know the answer to that question either, but I mean, this isn't, like, we haven't had them in 5 months. Like,
But we're not saying we're not gonna have them in case we do get help to him, then maybe we can do them. You know what I mean? But
But just to clarify, Jamie, don't those subcommittees have end dates?
I don't think so.
No.
They didn't have them like the other ones?
I mean, I think the
Not
end
like
dates
the
are when
police
the election
department,
happens.
yeah.
But, so if people can make suggestions on how people can attend all these meetings and do all these meetings, you know, I'm open to the ideas.
Yeah, maybe we'll talk. Councilor Bloom? Max?
I'm all set.
Nothing. Okay, future agenda items, I think we have to talk about the fire truck, don't we? Not now?
I just think it's just.
Chuck Allen, Fire Chief. Just real quick, I know we're up against the time. We had a fire truck that we had to take out of service, so it's currently not being used. It's a vital piece of equipment. It has a serious safety issue with the frame, and we're gonna have to replace it. So that we are actively working on a plan to replace that now, and that'll probably be before you in the future, hopefully soon. So you know, I would ask all of you to reach out to us individually, and we can give you whatever information you want in the meantime. That's it. So, I do just want to say too, I know, listening to the budget conversation tonight, we all rely on each other, our departments. You know, I can't tell you how many times we have to talk to Jamie during the day, and he's busy, or we work with each other all the time. If as a fire department, if you cut public works, then you're reducing our ability to protect the community, because we're relying on water mains. Our ISO 1 rating is reliant on a lot of public works. You know, if we can't get into schools, we can't reduce our risk of the community. You know, if we can't get in the senior center in front of the seniors, we can't help the seniors to get. We all work together. We really do. And I just wanted to quickly say that. So, but as far as the fire truck goes, if you could reach out to me, I can give you a little bit more information what's going on with it. It's just happened last week that the vehicle's out of service, and we do absolutely need to replace it. So.
How much do you say you're gonna need, Chief?
We're trying to save as much money as we can. Trying to buy a demo model. Ordering a truck is absolutely out of the question. They're 36 to 48 months. This vehicle's out of service now, so we're really looking at a cost, best case of $935,000, which is crazy for a fire truck when you think we just bought 2 last year for $540,000, in 2021 for $540,000 a piece. So it's almost a double cost increase what we're paying today, but it's not going to be avoidable. So
it's a demo, right?
it's a demo.
That's the only vehicle available right now.
Yeah.
There's just nothing out in the market, you know.
Nothing.
Most communities that buy them, they're waiting 3 or 4 years for the truck to be delivered, and it's an order. It's well over $1 million. If we had to actually order this truck, the one that we've identified to try and purchase, if we had to order that vehicle, it'd be at least a 36-month wait time, and the price would start at 1.1 to 1.2, so.
And they say 36 months, but it's not 36.
And we're up
More
against the
48.
27 emission standards too.
It's
which
like
standards.
Yeah.
It'd be a big problem. so that-
It's like 48.
Yeah.
Trust me,
It's a
I'm
lot.
still waiting for a ladder truck.
But we do have some options out there, so we are working on it, but we'll get those out to you soon as we can. So.
Does the demo truck have everything you need? Would it?
It does. You know, our apparatus that we ordered, 5 or 6 years ago are just standard fire trucks. There's nothing fancy about them. That's all we need. We don't need to go in. You don't need to custom order a vehicle or anything. Usually, when you order a truck, they might custom order the cabinets or placement. This particular vehicle happens to be outfitted just the way we would use it, so it'd be fine.
And is there a chance if we don't move quickly on this, someone else is going to buy it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's actually, if they're holding it for us for 30 days,
Okay.
We might be able to extend that a little bit of time. This vehicle's scheduled, it's a demo, so it's been around a little bit, going to, fire truck shows for sales. Once that hits the open market, it's gonna go. So.
It'll go in, well.
It'll go in a minute.
Yeah, because we're not going to a trade show.
Yeah, it's actually going to a trade show in 2 weeks, actually, so hopefully nobody else wants to buy it
So
there.
they're holding it right now?
They are.
Okay.
For 30 days.
For 30 days,
Yeah.
probably from Friday or whenever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
We good?
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, Chuck. All right, ready? Motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Yeah. I have a second. Not debatable.
We are now producing this in collaboration with Franklin TV and Franklin Public Radio. This podcast is my public service effort for Franklin, but we can't do it alone. We can always use your help. How can you help? If you can use the information that you find here, please tell your friends and neighbors. If you don't like something here, please let me know. Through this feedback loop, we can continue to make improvements. And I thank you for listening. For additional information, please visit franklinmatters.org. If you have questions or comments, you can reach me directly at suresteve@gmail.com. The music for the intro and exit was provided by Michael Clark and the group East of Shirley. The piece is titled Ernesto Mañana, copyright Michael Clark and Tintype Tunes in 2008, and used with their permission. I hope you enjoy. By the way, you can also subscribe and listen to Franklin Matters Radio on your favorite podcast app. Search in podcasts for Franklin Matters.